I know it's early. You probably have a big party yesterday, so I hope it won't be too boring. I'm Franz Quiquere, Principal UI UX Designer at Sumo and I will talk today about visual language and meaning in UI. So basically, when I was at uni, I had a semiotician as a teacher, and it was maybe the only lesson I remember at this time because I wasn't a good student. But I'm working video games now. It's more fun than the university courses, and it's the only lesson I remember, and it helped me every day in my work. So this discipline is about the sign, and you have to think the language as a series of signs. It's just not speaking, it could be visual. And a language is a system. So what is semiotics? It's the study of sign and symbol and the interpretation. It's used on many different disciplines, communication, advertisement, and even fashion industry. And it helps to communicate better, just to have the basics, and the theory can help. It's part of the philosophy. Some famous semioticians are, for example, Peirce, Ferdinand de Saussure, who is from Switzerland a long time ago, and Roland Barthes, who is French. It's a really old discipline, but curiously, I found that it was very modern and it helps me a lot in my work. So it's why I'm here today to speak about that. That is very basic. You have a sign. The sign is this little dog, for example, and it's what is defined as a sign. It's the signifier and the signified. So the signifier, it's the representation, the dog, the sound, woof, and the word dog in English, but it could be another word in another language. And what it means for you, it's the mental concept. So it could be friendly, messy, or maybe noisy. This little dog looks like a sausages. And also, it's a character in Toy Story. So maybe you connect with Toy Story immediately. It depends of your past and the context. I took for first another examples on UI. It's the fashion industry. This little striped sweater that we call marinière in French could have several meanings depending on the concept. So the first picture is Picasso. So I remember when I was wearing this striped sweater during a call, Mark, when our UI designer was like, oh, it's Picasso, and I didn't think about that, but yeah, it's one of his representation of this sweater. But originally, it's clothes the seamen were and still wearing in the French Navy, and when somebody is falling into the sea, you can see him, so it's very practical and it's not connected to fashion at all. But during the 40s, some fashion designer started to use it, and it became very iconic with Jean-Paul Gaultier. So now it's very fashionable and with a lot of different versions. And also because fashion takes place in Paris, and it's a symbol of the gay community, or at least it was at some point. And more recently, a politician used it to promote the Made in France. So now it's kind of patriotic, to be honest. So depending where you live and with the people you are wearing this clothes, it will have a different meaning. And how we can switch to UI from this fashion industry, it's also so you can divide on several subjects, but I choose 3. It's a sign is defined by colors, shapes, and surfaces. So in that slide, you can see that the roses as a button are using different colors, and it will have a meaning. The shapes for this little button, shape of the pants are not used the same for the same purpose, and all the surfaces will help you to change the meaning, but we'll see in the other slide. So that is a different system of signs. So traffic signs, first, when you see a big stop signs with this red color, it gives you more insight about what you are supposed to do, stopping. That it's a rating system, the rating scores, you have a combination of colors, symbols, that is the age, and iconography, and a classic set of icons that has a meaning because they live together. So you remove one icon of this different system, and it has less sense, or it could have a different meaning. So let's start with colors. That is a traffic light kind of system of thinking. So red without this box, without this traffic light, doesn't have the same meaning, but in that context, it means stop, waiting, and go. When you're creating your poster, because you did a movie, you also have to be careful to choose the colors, because colors has kind of meaning depending on the context of creating a movie poster. That is some very famous trope about that. I think now it's not really relevant anymore because there were a lot of documentation and article about that, but at some point, the comedy movie were using a white background with a big red title, and you was thinking immediately, okay, it's a comedy movie, and same for the independent movie, but with a yellow background. And in games, I try to do a bit the same, and I found this example, the racing game. So is it really about color? I think in that example, it's maybe the emptiness, like the fact that the white is a neutral color, so it won't disturb you. It's about cars, it's about vehicles, it will be very fast. So this example is also to say that sometimes removing the color has also a meaning. So let's start with 2 colors that are a bit supposed to be the opposite. So red is a very, very powerful color. Color of love, color of blood, violence, stop sign. We are using UI to cancel, to remove, but also to highlight something new or sale, because this color is just popping, and it's always a good choice to use red, but we'll see that a bit later. And green, so it's the color of validation, also healing, pharmacy, green, environment, luck, but also in different other culture. In other culture, for example, in Asia, it could be, it could mean that your partner is cheating you. So it's not, it's difficult to wear a green hat. You don't know that before testing that to an audience. So when you use a color, you have to remember that it will have another meaning in a different country. So be aware of the context. And also, it could be the color of the poison. So we use that a bit inside the game. Yellow and blue are very, very different color. Yellow is used a lot in video games because it's very fun, but also for a lot of culture, it has some bad meaning, like it's used for things that person is a traitor in France. So I put this image of the kiss of Judas. The cape is cold, but it was we consider that like yellow because we couldn't really paint yellow at some point. And blue is a very, very safe color used for brand, for banks, for IT brand, but also it's used a bit to say that you are sad and you have some nostalgic feeling. So it's not a very controversial color, it's very neutral, but still you have to be aware that could have different meaning. And in the UI, if you browse the internet and you're starting to study UI, you will find this kind of help that red is negative, blue is supposed to be positive, green also very positive. But you can't really decide what the people will think when they will see this color. And this author says that we live in a time in which it is the audience, not the author, who has the ultimate control over the interpretation of art and culture. And it's basically means that you need to run some tests. So you have 4 different examples of A/B testing people did on colors. So the first example, get started now. The red button works a lot better. Conversion increased by 34%. So myself, because I learned get started have to be green, I would have chosen green, I think, but apparently red is working a lot better. The second example, with a smaller button, it was working again a lot better with red by 21%. Number 3, the orange beats this time. So it's not red, but still very powerful, very warm. And in the last example, I'm wondering if anybody has an idea who bets. No? Orange? It's blue. So, yeah, it's really difficult to have some strong opinion about colors, and everything has to be tested, really. Let's talk about shapes now. So, basically, a shapes could be 3 different things. An icon is really the direct representation of the shape. So for a dog, it could be one of these 5 drawing. An index is kind of indirect representation, and you will think about the dog. So the paw, the bone, the little house, or the ball is one of the most common index you can think to represent the dog. And the symbol, it's something completely disconnected that we learn. So I used the language, dog in English, in French, and I think it's pêche or pes, it's in Ukrainian. So if you see pêche, you won't think about the dog because you don't know the language. Maybe you know Ukrainian, but if you don't know Ukrainian, you can't connect. But for people who know the language, dog will be maybe the most powerful way to say that it's a dog, because you learn that. And if you use that in UI, you have you can use the 3 of that. So, for example, for a soft currency, I think it will be more common and useful to use directly the icon. So you have already the coin that is kind of a representation of something, the money. So why not using directly that? But if you want to make an icon of a hat, it's not so easy, because maybe you have some helmet, some cap, or some pineapple, or I don't know, you can have some random stuff, very funny stuff to put on the top of the head of your character in your game. So in our current game we are working on, we had this issue. Should we put one of the cap we have in the game on something that is representing the idea of wearing something? So maybe a cap that is not in the game. And in Among Us, I think they just decide to display hat, because too many random stuff, so not easy to represent. And that is just to remember you that every symbol in a different context can say something different, and you have to be careful about that. X could be a close button, could be a prompt button on Xbox or PlayStation, and also something that's is helping you to remove an item in your inventory. So, and in other contexts, it's completely different. When I was in the UK 3 years ago, I saw this little XXX at the end of the sentence, and it doesn't make any sense for me. I discovered that very late that it was supposed to be a kiss, but I didn't have the clue. Nobody was explaining me that. So the X could have so many meanings depending on the context. So the index, the symbol, can be so disconnected to what is really so indirect that sometimes it could be completely outdated. It's the case of the phone, the old phone. We still use this icon to display some communication going. The floppy disk, the glass hour, right, and the magnifier are some very old tool we don't really use on a daily basis, but still you will think about searching an item and waiting for something. For how long? Because at some point it has some sense to use it, but maybe in 20 years, 30 years ago, it won't be the case anymore, or maybe it will be part of a language we created a long time ago, and we will still use it in 100 years. We don't know. So let's talk a bit about surfaces. Surfaces could help also to understand the meaning of your icon or boxes or UI elements. So I took the example of a dropped shadow that is highlighting that you are probably a button in front of you, and the inner shadow that is highlighting the fact that you press the button. Having an icon empty or filled will help you to display that it's selected. Same for the highlights, a little glow around the icon, and without changing any color, finally you can also, just with surface, build a screen that will give you a lot of meaning. So, yeah. So let's talk a bit more about UI. I had a little fun to think about what is the best color to display the health bar in games, and I saw basically every single game choose something different. So I went into Reddit to see what should be the best color to display this health bar, and I saw that. So the first command says red is for blood, so it's health bar. Green is for healing. And some other comments were in the same direction. Red is HP, blue is mana, and green is stamina, so a bit different than healing. But some comments were completely opposite. So red, it means stop or warning. Full health bar should be red, shouldn't be red. Green means good. And so I think it's the opposite. Red turn greens when poisoned. That's a real statement. And the other is green and become red when low. So really, you can have a lot of different opinion, and I think the comments in the middle, it depends really. It's really what it is, depending on the context, even if it's the same health bar kind of system. All games are different. You create your language inside your game, and you can pick every single color on the color palette. If it makes sense inside the game, you don't have to really think about what the others did in the past. And also, for the colorblind gamer, it doesn't really make any sense. And I choose two games to just try to demonstrate you that you don't really have to follow all these rules about I saw this color on this game, and we should use this color because it's the color of starting a game or joining the setting screen. This game, for example, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, just break all the rules. You have an OK button that is yellow. You have a Let's Go button in red that is to the left and to the right. You have another Yes button in orange, and every single screen in that presentation are from the same game and looks very, very different. But there is one common thing. It's the way they are highlighting stuff. You have a thick stroke with a yellow and orange that is animated in the game, and it's pretty obvious. You are just selecting an element, and you just need that. You just need to know where you are in the screen and how to navigate. In this game. It's a bit different. It's a bit a crazy game, going very far with the UI, but in my opinion, they don't really break the game. They break the rules. They play with the rules, and they are benefiting the fact that it's a game for hardcore audience. So you have the idea that a pop-up, you always have no and yes, no in the left, yes in the right. So why not just explode it and make it very big so it's a bit absurd or I don't know, it's just funny to watch. And everything is exploded, but for gamers who learn how the game are working, everything is it's making sense in motion. And for the shop, they choose to do a very, very different UI just because it's a different part of the game and with a different purpose. You buy some stuff. So why not choosing something completely different? You are free to do whatever you want. And so this crazy UI, when you put animation on top, it doesn't look so crazy or so random. So it's the last thing I would like to say. It's animation could help really to bring the content and thinking a UI just like a screen, it's a limitation. So my conclusion is you can do a great UI for the rules and using the language that the other did in the past, but you can also be more brave and create a new language. It's really up to you. And the only thing that matters is to have one element that is consistent. And I think, yeah, you could be successful with just one trick. The only thing you have to remember is that UI is a language. Yeah. Do you have any question? Yep. Sorry, do we have any microphone? Okay, okay, okay. You have to work more with the iconography, the surfaces, and the animation. I think we should care more about animation. If a screen is not looking so great in the fixed state, everything can be different with some effects and animation. I mean, in the context of semiotic, not really. You can think about it, but I didn't really, because I was focused on arts. So, but you can use the control button, like the A, X, like a language to just set up some rules in your UI, and it helps to have a kind of consistency and hierarchy inside your screen. So it could be a help to have this controller displayed. Yeah. I think it definitely has to be tested, because maybe yes, maybe not. I really, really think that if you have a strong language inside your game and you define it with an idea, a vision in mind, it will work everywhere. But if it's something you just copy-paste from another game, maybe they will remember unconsciously the other game and try to see exactly the same thing inside your game. And maybe there is some really no-go you don't have to do. It's not easy to think about it before. So, yeah. I don't know. You first. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a difficult subject. I mean, I think it's a question of trust with the client. If you work with the client for many, many years, for example, the Persona 5 games, it's a number 5. So they have 4 other titles they did in the past, and they have the trust of not the client, but people releasing the game in the publisher. So if you have in mind that is a language and it could help to sell the game or to help to navigate, to bring an identity, you can define that during the pitch with the client, I think. It's 3 different kind of language you will do. If you work on a very casual family game, you will adopt or create a completely different language than other titles. So just you have to make a choice at some point. Doing really a balance, it's risky because you want to do something and you are not just sure about what you are doing, and at the end still you have to test your idea. It won't work without any test, I think. Yeah. Yeah, a bit. Yeah. um, so you can use some brighter colors first. You have some iconographies that are very specific to game, I think. Some, I mean, icons you can see for the RPG for inventory. But you have also a question of size. Doing a game for PC or for console or mobile, you don't use the same layout and the same size for the elements. So web is very strict and clean, flat. You can do not only flat design on web design, but you have to break a lot of convention if you want to do that. Basically, in games, we are more free. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, in the context of game jam, you don't have the time to create something really different, I think. Yeah, so. Genders, okay. Yeah. So there is some established language for each genre. And of course, you have to know that and to study that. But it's up to you if you want to follow that or break it. Still, it helps to put a bit of what the audience is expecting. And at the end of the day, also, it's connected with the game. If the game is really, really following everything, like we saw some racing game previously, Forza and Asphalt are really, really following all the convention. If the UI is completely crazy and is going to another very different direction, it won't make any sense. It's a product, so it has to be consistent in the whole. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. And I would like to thank, because I'm not a morning person, but not at all. My manager can say that before 10 I can't speak normally. So, and it's the first time I'm doing that in English, so it's a bit challenging. Thanks a lot.